Am I on? All right. A little bit of false start there. Good morning, good afternoon from all of you that are in our time zone, and happy November to everybody else. It's time for us to do another live chat. It's something we do every month. As those of you who are accustomed to attending these with us know, and this month the focus is on color, things that color can do that are more or less out of the ordinary. And so that's why I wanted this chat to be about finding colors in neutrals, or I really wanted to say finding hues in neutrals, but that doesn't quite sound it sounds a little too academic, I think, to really attract people. So that's what we're doing. So before we get started with that, for those of you who are new to attending these chats, what we do is, if you're a member, you can ask questions. In fact, I saw recently that YouTube recommends having some way to cut down on what does it say? Cut down on have control over the questions. I believe that's what it is. It's a monitor.
Oh yeah.
Moderation. Moderator. That sort of thing. Well, anyway, so members can ask questions. That helps us to control the traffic. And so if you're not a member, you can join. You should see right there somewhere underneath underneath the screen, or somewhere in the vicinity there, you might see the word join. And you hit that, and then it will hit you up for $4.99. No, not 40. $4.99 a month. And that's really pretty inexpensive for what we think we do, giving you the live chats, it also provides for you a free video lesson every month from our lessons website. And also, Roger sends you a little free teaser, some composing intro idea to get you thinking and give you a little bit of information, get you going every second Sunday of the month. So anyway, we're moving right along with all of that, and just like everybody, jump on board. But for today, if you want to ask questions and you're not a member, we won't object to your joining at all. So while we're waiting for folks to come in, I see we've already got Cheryl, Sheba, Maurice, Maggie, and Rich saying hello to us, and hello to all of you. And others of you, check in and say hi to us. Don't be shy if you're a member and you're watching. There comes Alka. And I may not recognize you by your name. Sometimes I just don't see it. But know that we're always happy to have you folks attending, and know that you're with us here. So I want to give you just a couple of reminders. Most everybody who will be in attendance is already aware of these and already participating, but we are doing a live stream workshop Wednesday. That's November the 20th. Still have a couple of spaces open there for the live stream workshop. Just go to DianneMizeAcademy.com and click on Diane's workshops in the menu. If you're interested in that, you can check out and see what we're doing. This one's exciting. I think, how can you create rhythm with color in your paintings? It's something that Sargent was a master of. It's something that Monet certainly was a master of. And we're going to look at that and actually use some of the same techniques that Monet and Sargent used to learn how to use color to create rhythm in our paintings. The other thing I want to remind you of is that we have a rip-roaring sale going on the Academy right now, 50% off this month's course, which is about contrasting and gradating textures. Now, if that doesn't sound sexy to you, nothing will. I know a lot of people don't seem to be really interested in a lesson or whatever if it doesn't have the word color in it. Let me tell you, textures in painting can really be exciting, and the kinds of things you can do with them. So go check out the description there. And that is DianneMizeAcademy.com. So I guess that's enough of my What am I doing? I'm advertising, right? I'm getting free advertising from YouTube. Oh, by the way, I know these ads are going to keep interrupting us, and we don't have any control on that. It just I can't tell you how infuriated it makes me that this happens, but just click on the skip as soon as you can, and know that Roger and I are not doing this. This is YouTube just being greedy. So, okay, there comes Lisa. Hello, Lisa. All right, I'm ready to get going, and I bet you are too, on this whole idea of finding color in neutrals. Neutrals, we're getting into that season now in areas of the world where you have gray winters, where we have bare trees and it's not really dead grass, but it looks like dead grass in the wintertime. So we're going to get going with that, and we're going to start with the little video instruction I've done for you to get your gray matter stirring in your head, and then after the video we'll have a discussion. So make notes of any questions. I know things will probably come to your mind while the video's playing. So Roger, are you ready with that?
I'm ready.
All right, let's roll that video and get going. Most people would call these rocks gray if you ask them what color you're seeing. But look what happens when I throw it into black and white. The hue that's present in the rocks we see here is very subtle, but it's there. And we'll find that in most things that appear neutral or gray to us, we can find a little bit of hue. And we can enhance that hue just a little bit and create a vibrant painting from something that might otherwise be just gray. In the history of painting, once artists released themselves from academic rules and were free to observe with their own eyes and paint according to what their eyes were seeing, then they began to see these kinds of subtleties. Along with the Impressionists, there are other artists such as John Singer Sargent in our history of art who saw those miracles and were able to create masterpieces with their observations. It's not far-fetched to say that every single painter can learn to do that. It's just a matter of forgetting the rules and training your eyes how to look. And as we learn how to look, we learn what words to apply to what we're seeing. Let's explore that concept. Here's what I mean about that. If we're approaching a scene like this and considering it for a painting, we already know what it is, so that's one thing we don't need to describe for ourselves. In other words, the words we use in our thoughts need to tell us what qualities we're looking at. Color-wise, when we're looking at a scene that has so many neutrals in it, such as this does, we are looking directly for trying to find the hue in those colors first, and once we find the hue, then looking for what value that hue is and what saturation that hue is. By doing this, by taking this approach, we will provide for ourselves tools to give a real life to the painting, whereas if we just guess at it, we're rambling in the dark. So for a scene like this that's almost totally neutrals, the how we look is about how we look for color. If you're looking at these colors, and if you're calling them generic names such as gray or tan or brown, those colors don't inform you about your selections for getting the richest colors possible in your painting. They just don't do it. Even if you're looking for tube colors. If you're looking at that and saying, well, I see burnt sienna, I see burnt umber, I see cerulean blue, that still limits you in your selection for getting the most potential for your painting. So how do you look? You look for hue, you look for the value of the hue, and you look for the saturation of the hue. And those are the thoughts you have. The thoughts about hue, the thoughts about the saturation of that hue, the thoughts about the value of that hue. Now, I want to share with you what my experience has taught me is the best and clearest way to go about that. And for that, we use the color wheel. Now, a little sidebar here. Most of the color wheels we get from the art shops have all kinds of stuff in the center. That stuff you don't really need. That stuff is stuff for you to figure out, and it's not helpful at all. It's better to go straight through to the colors that you're looking at and then compare them to the colors you see on the color wheel. And for that reason, I advise whatever color wheel you have, no matter how beautiful all this stuff is, if you just take an X-Acto knife and just cut it out right around in here so that you can see through it like I see through my color wheel here. That way you can use it for the tool it's meant to be used for. I want to show you now how I use the color wheel to come up with the colors I select for my paintings. I think you're going to find this very helpful. It will require some sort of resorting and re-gearing your thinking and your processes, but it works every time. First, let's move the color wheel around and decide where we're going to find our color. Now, because we want to keep these relatively short, I'm only going to locate one color and show you how to find any color by the process we use for identifying this one color. So I'm going to zoom in to this color right here because it's the most neutral or among the most neutral of the colors I see throughout the whole scene. So that will be a good one to use to show you this process. Your first question when you're trying to identify a color, ask yourself, when you look at that color compared to the rest of the scene, does it feel cool or does it feel warm? That gives you a clue as to which side of the color wheel you're going to find that color. Now, when I look at this color, I identify it as warm. The warm colors on the color wheel are right here on this side. So that tells me I've already narrowed it down. I'm going to be able to find the hue of this color somewhere right in here. All right, that's step one. Step two, then locate the hue that has the closest relationship to that color. And here's how we do that. We move the color wheel around and ask ourselves, or just look at it to see how akin it feels to what we're looking at. How akin does this color feel to the yellow? And it seems to me I can feel a relationship there. So I'll take it on around and compare it to the yellow-orange, and I certainly do feel a relationship there. I can see or feel that the hue of yellow-orange is certainly very close to the hue I'm looking at. I can take it to the other warm colors and compare. This is close, but I don't see that red that's in the orange. And naturally, I don't see the red here. So I've already narrowed it down. I could take it on and compare it to the red, but I've already narrowed it down. That I see yellow-orange. I might see yellow in there, but I'm almost certain it's yellow-orange. So what we can do there is to begin to find out. To show you how to do that, I'm going to rearrange the screen a bit here. First of all, let's make us a place to work. Then let's pull the color wheel within that area. We put a splotch of the yellow-orange right here. This is the yellow-orange that we're working with. Whatever tube color you have that's yellow-orange, if you don't have yellow-orange, you can mix it from orange and yellow. So put a splotch right there. Now, we need a splotch of blue-violet, but we need to make a correction. The blue-violet, as it would come out of almost any tube, you may have some light blue violets, but you don't need it. If you have ultramarine blue and you have alizarin crimson, you can make a blue violet. Or if you have any of the red violet colors added to ultramarine blue, you can make blue violet. So what I'm going to do next is value correct. Whenever we're changing saturation of any color, it's better to have both colors the same value. So we're going to value correct next. And that means we're going to take this blue violet and we're going to change its value to be as close as this as we can estimate that it is. And so, I'll put it right over here. Here is the blue violet. Now, I may have that a little dark. I think I do. So sometimes you don't really know with these dark colors until you put them down on the paper. You can't really tell what you have. Let's see what we have here. I think that is probably close enough. I think this will work. It may turn it a little dark, but it's okay. We'll be able to see what will happen. All right. The next step is on your palette, put a little bit of that blue violet into that pile of yellow orange, and then make another splotch. And you'll probably get something that looks a little bit like that. Well, I can already tell that that is still not quite what we're looking at right here. There's not as much yellow-orange in this as there is in that. That's what saturation means. A fully saturated color has all the hue in it that it can possibly have. We start subtracting hue from color when we begin to add its complement to it. And that's what neutralizing is and what desaturating. Those are two words we use. Let's add a little bit more of the blue violet to the yellow orange. This is what we get. So if I just put that right there, can you see that is very close? The value is too dark. It's darker than that is. So we can add white into that and change the value. And this is what we get right here. Now let's test that right here. I have little strips of paper that I call my test strips. And I will, when I'm trying to get the hue, discover the hue of anything I'm looking at, and I'm not quite sure what to do, this is the process I'll take. And I will put my mixtures on that little test strip and hold it beside the image itself. You see, we're pretty much in the ballpark. So that's the method I would suggest that you try for dissecting the color you're looking at and finding the hue that you need to put on your palette in order to get that color. So what I would put on my palette here would be a yellow-orange, and I need a blue violet on the palette as well in order to be able to desaturate that yellow-orange, and then I can get all the variations that I need. So it's that simple. Have your thoughts about hue, value, and saturation of the color, and then you will have your thoughts right, and but when you're looking for that, you will be looking for the right thing. Let's stop here now and let you ask your questions. All right, folks. That's how you do it. That's the process that works. I found that it's absolutely a foolproof process for discovering what hues you're actually looking at when you're looking at neutral colors, regardless of what degree of neutrality they are. Now, there are some colors, a few we find in nature that honestly just sit right smack dab on no hue, where it's totally neutralized, but you won't find much of that. And the reason you won't, if it's not the local color of whatever image it is itself, it's going to be how the light shining on it is causing it to be either warm or cool. And I think when the fall leaves are out, the color, the hue, the rays from the leaves, the color particles from the leaves reflect back into the atmosphere, and you will see that they will influence the the warmth or the temperature, I should say, of neutrals. Like you notice that sometimes. Right now is a good time to begin to notice it. In some areas, in our area it is, and those areas that still have some color on the trees. Look at the tree trunks, especially the tree trunks that tend to appear more to be gray. And watch how that color of the bark on those trunks will change according to the color that's being reflected back onto them, because particles of color bounce all over the place. They don't just hang tight onto whatever's emitting the color. That's what reflective color and reflective light is. Oh, goody, we've got some questions, some comments and questions come in. All right, Maggie says, you've used the traditional color wheel. Are you willing to comment on the Munsell color system? Yes, I am, Maggie. That's a good question. Hang on to Rich's comment there. The Munsell system is a very mathematical system. It's much more scientific. It's based on 100 possibilities for color around the wheel itself, and it does the same thing as far as locating or rendering, I should say, the varying degrees of hue and the varying degrees of saturation of those hues and the varying values of those. It tries to be encompassing, but it's so mathematical that you almost have to have a whole set of blocks, of Munsell color blocks, in order to use it. And I'm too impatient for that. My system does the same thing as Munsell's system, except mine's based totally on what you're observing and what you know that color does to color. So it sort of shortcuts all that mathematical stuff. So that's basically the difference, is that his is very mathematical, and it's like 10 degrees between each hue on the wheel, and there's 10 degrees here and 10 degrees there. It's based on a system that blends color, but it is very, very intricate. It requires a lot of memory. If you're trying to find a system, if you're trying to find a neutral that is on the Munsell wheel or within the Munsell system, you've got to do a lot of calculating before you get there. And I prefer my system. I'm too spontaneous and too impatient to do that. So if that's not sufficient, Maggie, let me know, and if you have something more specific, and I will comment on that too. Rich says, would you say that the more neutral color is, the more our perception is influenced by the colors around it? I'm talking about those pesky optical illusions that make some colors hard to read. Well, to a degree, yes, we are influenced by, and that's what the Impressionists were all about, was influence us by colors that are juxtaposed, especially within the same value area. And so I think the important thing is when we teach ourselves to read the hue that we see in whatever color is there, and then we can determine what's causing us to see that color, but we don't have to always know what's causing us to see it, the color our eyes are registering it. And another thing, Rich, is that you can isolate a color if you're being bothered by the juxtaposition or colors surrounding colors and influencing the way you see them. When you're trying to analyze the color that you're looking at, in other words, what would I mix to get that? That's when we want to dissect that thing and be able to instantly know what to do if when we're working with every color, in fact, but especially when we're working with neutrals. But you can isolate that color just for using your hand like this. Just hold your hand up like that and look through it. Close one eye and look through it, and you can isolate any color. You can squeeze your hand down, make a tiny little hole, or you can increase the size and make a larger one. And you can isolate, and through that little isolation, you'll be able to read what's there. And you may or may not be able to determine whether it's being influenced by other colors around it. So two things happen. One is how our eyes receive this. So our eyes will always have, if a color is very, very saturated, our eyes have a tendency to get an after image of that saturation. If we're looking at a color for, say, more than about 5 to 10 seconds, a really, really saturated color, then our eyes are going to see an after image. We're going to see the opposite of that, the opposite of the complement of that. We're going to see it somewhere echoing around us. Or if you take your eye away from that color and you look somewhere else, you're going to see that after image is going to affect. So for example, if we're looking at something that's very, very red-orange, and I'm holding my eyes on that for 5 to 10 seconds, I may look into a room that has white walls, and I'd see them as blue or greenish blue leaning towards green. So we've got that, and then we also have the hues of the color particles, the rays of color, where the color bounces from one color to the other. We have that reflective light, that reflective color that will bounce off surrounding colors onto another color. We especially have that in neutrals. So in that case, the best thing to do is isolate the color like this, and just so that you're not allowing yourself to see what's around it, what's throwing the color onto it, what's influencing it. But in that case, it would be the environment. If you're doing a painting of that, it would be that whole environment, the whole situation, or some area of that situation that you're finding the color for, and it won't matter so much what the real local color would be of that and how much the colors is bouncing onto it. So the important thing is teach yourself to identify individual little isolated parts of color that you see, and then that way you will develop a habit of knowing when you look at a color, especially when you're looking at neutrals, you'll develop a habit of knowing what to do to get that. And that's the whole point of this exercise, the whole point of the way I teach color, is to know, not have to guess, not have to go at something and just have a trial and error session where you're just trying to come up. Well, I wonder if I mix this with this, will I get it? Will I mix this with this, will I get it? Maybe I put a little bit of this, I'll put a little bit of that. You shouldn't have to do that. And so when you really intentionally train yourself to identify colors as to their hue, as to the value of that hue, and as to the saturation of that hue, you'll make a habit of that, and you'll get to the point where you'll be able to almost identify any hue you're looking at in terms of those three things, and those three things are what make up every single color we see. I think I rambled a little bit, I don't care. Anyway, Cheryl does a neutral that is approaching total neutral, say 60 to 75% neutral, behave the same way with its analogous neutrals, same saturation, same desaturation, same value, and produce the luminosity. Yes. It's the hue within the neutral. And remember what I said, that when you're desaturating, you're taking hue away. So as long as there is enough hue, as long as there is, what you said there, you said 60, 75%. Okay, so in other words, you're saying we still have, say, 25% hue. That's pretty neutral. But if you have that much hue in, say, a warm color, side by side or mixed into or just stroked with, where you see both of them, of its complement in that same saturation, that it will. Your eyes do it. It's not the color itself. It's kind of a little duet that your eyes do with the color. Your eyes are behaving. Your eyes are seeing it that way. Your eyes are dancing like that. And you know that if you've ever seen any of the real Impressionists, and I'm not talking about modern Impressionists necessarily, because a lot of people call themselves Impressionists and they really don't know what they're. Well, I shouldn't say that's being ugly, but A lot of people call themselves impressionists without really understanding what a real impressionist is. Just making impressions of of images is not being an impressionist. The impressionists were using that method of juxtaposing two colors to create one, where the eye is doing the blending of the color. And they understood, they had studied exactly what we're teaching right now, today in this lesson, had studied that so in depth, especially Monet, that he would know exactly what he was doing when he put two colors together, and he knew exactly what to reach to put two colors together. So the eye blended those two colors and caused the third color. And so if those two colors are complements, Cheryl, and they're the same value, yes, they will. They will create that little dance, that luminosity dance. It's a wonderful thing. Rich, oh yes, by optical illusion, I mean how a warm can look cool. Yes, when it's surrounded by warmer colors. Yes, Rich, that is an optical, and I can say it's the way our eyes behave that causes color to work the way it does anyway. Yeah, so yes, well, it's a matter of one part is what we're looking at, and the other part is what we're doing with that in our painting. So we might be looking at, for example, behind me, this is a Pissarro, a photograph of a Pissarro painting. Now, of course, he was an impressionist too. Behind me, let's see if I can find some area where you may see right back there. I don't know if you can tell. Say the color yellow-orange. Since I was focusing on yellow-orange in this in the video. Let me just continue with that. A yellow-orange that is more saturated. Two yellow oranges side by side. One, I'm going to look at the camera. One is more saturated than the other. They're both yellow orange, but the least saturated one is going to look cooler. So it'd be two hues. The more saturated it is, the cooler it is. Also, the colors, you can lean hues at the same value, same saturation. You can lean them in one direction or another towards their analogous color on the color wheel. And there's another way where we get that optical thing going on. Say, for example, take the color green, for example. All right. No, I don't want to take the color green. It has to, the primary colors won't do that, and the secondary colors they won't change in hue. As long as it's a secondary color or a primary color, it doesn't change in hue. It if another hue is added into it, then it becomes a tertiary. So a secondary is always secondary, secondary, secondary. Primary is always primary, primary. It only has that one hue in it. Secondary only has those two hues in it. And so when it becomes a tertiary, then the hues it may have more of one hue and it does another. Let me explain what I'm talking about. Say, Roger, you pop the color wheel up there for me?
Yeah.
Okay. Show you what I'm talking about here. See, where's there we go. There we go. Okay. So yellow-green is a tertiary. So if you have two yellow-greens side by side, they're the same value. One has a little bit more yellow in it, and one has a little bit less yellow in it, which means it leans a little bit more towards green. Those are both yellow-green, but the one that leans more towards the green, has the less yellow, is actually cooler in temperature. So the tertiaries we can do that with. Now primaries, the reason Ms. Mize is going to ask me that, let me see. Oh, I meant complementary, not analogous. Cheryl, well, okay, you got the analogous explanation. The complementary, yes. Yeah. I'm going to talk to you just a moment about recognizing hues and what those hues will do to each other when they move around the wheel. Now, the primaries, are the blue and the yellow and the red. All right, so hue-wise, they don't change. If the yellow, for example, starts to become a little bit more has a little bit more red in it, it's no longer yellow. It then becomes yellow-orange. Yellow-orange is a tertiary. And so yellow-orange then can be a little more yellow-orange, a little bit more yellow when it's closer to this side of yellow, and it can be a little bit more orange. But as long as it is still identifiable as yellow-orange, it's a tertiary. And orange will appear orange. It's just orange. It has the kind of the balance, visual balance of the two primaries. It's what a secondary is. It's a mix of two primaries. But every tertiary is a mixture of one primary and one secondary, and the tertiaries can have a continuum of hues within them. So red-violet, for example, red-violet is a tertiary. It can still be red-violet when it has a little bit more of the violet in it, and it has less. It's still identifiable a little bit more of the violet. It's still red-violet, and then when it comes back, it can still be red-violet when it leans a little bit more towards red, and that can make that a little bit of an issue when you're trying to find the complements of those, because that means that you have to take that in consideration. Is it a red-violet that leans more towards red, or is it red-violet that leans more towards violet? Same thing with blue-green. Blue-green, that one probably has the feeling or sense of being more have a wider or longer continuum than some of the other tertiaries, because it can be a blue that leans a little towards green, and then it becomes blue-green, and then it can move over and get more green, and it's still blue-green. So some people want us to call it green-blue when it's closer to blue, and blue-green when it's closer to green, but that gets to be a kind of a tongue stumper for me. But all that is important because it informs you when you're mixing your colors. It informs you of what you can mix to get the results you want, and also informs you of possibilities of creating a deeper, richer hue or deeper, richer color when you can vary those things just a little bit and not just have them one single color. So maybe I hope I didn't trail off too much on that, but I am so fascinated by color and the effects it has, and especially. But what I've discovered, though, is that the thing that really stumps emerging artists, when emerging artists are learning to work with color, or even further in their careers as they're still working with color, the thing that causes most confusion is when we allow a color name to confuse itself with a hue name. For example, I mentioned in the video the word brown, the color brown. Well, or even when you identify a tube color as burnt umber, it doesn't give you enough information when you're observing. It doesn't give you enough information about how you can come up with the color you're looking at that may fall in that category. So the best thing to do is to come up with your color first and then name it. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Cheryl asked, back to Luminosity. The painting behind you, Pizarro, yes, Pizarro, you spelled it right, I think. Maybe, anyway, is fairly neutral. Yes, that's why Roger chose it. But it has a glow in it. Yes, it does. Is that from the use of all the hues being more neutralized, or is it being high key? It's not so much the high key as it is the complementary hues that are in there, Cheryl. Let me get out of the picture a little more. Now look at that. As you look throughout, you see blue, and then you see that is a yellow orange, very desaturated. You see they're very close in value, but the more desaturated a hue is, the more luminosity you can get from it. The more highly saturated colors are too saturated. They don't create that luminosity within your eye. Your eye won't respond to those to get that vibrancy that luminosity gives us as the lower saturated colors. The more neutral colors are the ones that are, they can to a point, you can have the saturation, but it'll reach a point where too much saturation just makes it feel too much, like chaotic. And when you get get complements side by side working throughout a whole painting. And so, but having that desaturation in there is one thing that enables that luminosity. And the higher key, yes, the higher key and middle keys are where we see that luminosity most effective, because there's more light on it, we can see it better. We can have a kind of luminosity in the lower keys, but remember that lower key is like in the shadow area and there's not much light there, so we don't have much there to reveal it to us. But as more light shines on the color, then we do have more that reveals, and that happens as we're creating those values of colors in our painting, just as it does when we're looking out over our landscape, or especially sunsets, is where in landscapes we see most luminosities in sunsets. A lot of people think a sunset is really, really highly saturated, but most sunsets you're going to find a major part of it is desaturated to a degree. Not neutral, not necessarily neutral, but you'll see. But a lot of times you'll see in overcast skies, like if it's when the sun's coming up, when the clouds are getting really, if they're getting thin, and you're having maybe some breakup of clouds on an overcast day or slightly overcast day, well, you can see it a little bit in Pissarro's painting here. Well, you'll begin to see some luminosity when you see some colors coming from the sunset, and they're vibrating. Look right in here, for example. See that right in there? See that little pink light that's a generic color. It's that red-orange light. Very, very light, and now you see it's against that blue, and you kind of feel that luminosity. It's right in here, especially in the most neutral areas. You feel that visual, wonderful visual vibration that causes you to see the luminosity. So yes, it's both being desaturated, Cheryl, and being lighter, enabling us to see it. Okay, Elizabeth says, but isn't some of the luminosity because of both the complement in the blue-grays and also because there is a lot of more chromatic yellow-orange? Oh, yes, you can have that to a point too, Elizabeth. Yes, the more hue, you're calling it chromatic, and that means the same thing. So I want to just say, I use the word hue. The more hue we have, when we have an area of more hue surrounded by less hue, more neutral against more hue, that too also at the same value level. That too will also call that vibration that is we call luminosity. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, the lower field, she says. Am I in the way somewhere? Okay, yes, where we're getting that a little bit higher. Right down in here, is this what you're yeah, this part right in here where you're getting the higher saturation, and also we got the value contrast there. So I don't let me make limitations here. I'm just pointing out there are some perimeters, and but you can look for color against color, and remember that it's when you have two colors doing something together, the less akin they are, the more opportunity they have to emphasize each other. And that's what's happening in luminosity. So say, what's obvious in the blue and orange, if the same value level, say of an orange and blue, they emphasize each other. And this is what's happening. The eyes they're kind of both emphasizing and contrasting each other. And that's what's causing. So value will do that to a point, but you see right in here where you have the orange and the green or blue, right in here in this area. Of course, I wish y'all could see this painting in real life. The best way to look at Impressionist paintings is to step as far away from them as you can to begin with, and then gradually walk up to them, and it will be like color that seems to just do this most alive thing. And Monet's paintings will do this, where you just think you see it, and then as you get closer and closer to it, it becomes more and more just like specks of color. Especially if the guards will let you get your eye right in there. They just look like specks of color, but then as you get back, that blends in your eye and does this wonderful thing. Sheila, when complementary colors are used to try to achieve luminosity, we tend to see more soft edges. Would that be accurate? Well, sometimes yes and sometimes no. When they are that close in value, the fact that they are close in value tends to soften the edges in our eye. And from that viewpoint, yes. But they'll vibrate even if they're blended. Like if you get a cool gradating into a warm in a very short space like that in the same value, they'll have that little vibration that goes through there. But you know, you got to have some value contrast. The more value contrast you have between two colors, the sharper the edges are going to be there between those, unless you blend them, unless you soften the edge. So it works both ways, Cheryl. Oh yes, Elizabeth was pointing out also on the very low saturation of the brown. Elizabeth, let's call that brown a low saturation of orange and a dark value. That's what I want you to think. That's the way I would like you to rearrange your thinking, or rearrange how your head identifies, how your head labels colors. And that tells, reason I'm not being a stickler about that, but reason I'm saying that is that when we do that, we have identified the hue, the value, and the saturation, and we know what to do to create it. And so when okay, that's enough of that. Yes, you're right about that. Okay, and then Sheila says, I meant complementary hues. Sheila, did I miscall you? Sheila says, Sheila, did I miscall your name? Well, when complementary colors are used to try to achieve luminosity, we tend to see more soft edges. That was Sheila, and I saw it as Cheryl. I guess it doesn't matter, y'all like each other, so it's okay. Yes, Sheila, meant complementary hues. Yes, at the same value. At the same value. Now, let's see. Do you know the title of Hasara? Roger's looking it up. Are you looking?
Up there.
Huh?
It's on the screen now.
Oh, it's on the screen now. Where?
Down at the bottom of the chat.
Oh, there it is. Hoarfrost. That's H-O-A-R.
It's ice frost.
Ice frost. Keep from having a... What are those words called that sound alike but spelled different? No, that's homonyms. Synonyms are words that mean the same thing.
Oh, no.
No, it's a homonym. Isn't it called homonym? If they sound the same but they're spelled different. Yeah, words are words are words are words are words. Rich. I'll see. Okay, Rich says, do you have a favorite subject for studying the variety of neutrals such as storm clouds or rocks, for example? I do, Rich. My favorite is the winter woods, winter trees. Well, two things. One, two favorite subjects of mine are the winter grays that we see all winter long in our area, and also rocks in rivers and creeks. Those, especially we have a river not far from me, just about a little 15, 20, 30 minute drive, depends on the traffic and the weather. Anyway, called the Tallulah River, and it's just a wonderful river. It's got these huge boulders, and it's just, the river is parallel to the little dirt road that takes you up the river. It's parallel almost all the way up, and then the river crosses over and whatever. And there are rapids after rapid after rapid, and these huge boulders and all different sizes of boulders. And it's one of my favorite places to study the neutrals. The neutrals are rock. In fact, the first photo that you saw there was taken from a section, just a very, very small section along that river road. And so, yeah, but the winter trees, pardon me, the winter tree trunks is a combination of the winter trees, the tree trunks in the winter, plus how they blend together, and we especially have woods, lots of forests or woods, how they blend together, and the various times of day, the way the light shine on them. I can't get enough of it. In fact, I've got my house parked right in the middle of some woods, and I've got it all winter long. And whereas other people are getting tired of the grays, I'm just eating them up. It's one of my very favorite things because you can discover so much. I can sit on my front porch and watch the same trees change color, dozens of times throughout the day. Because the sun is coming up in front of me when I'm sitting on my porch, and it goes over just like this, and it goes down behind me, and I can watch those trees, those neutral gray trees in the winter. I can watch them change color, change hue, as well as change values. I can watch them all day long, and it's just absolutely wonderful, especially when we have a really bright sunset or even a nice sunrise, but more so the sunset, because with the sunset, the light's coming back and I'm seeing the light rays hit the trees, whereas in the mornings I'm seeing, if we've got a nice sunrise, I'm seeing those tree trunks more in shadow. But that's amazing too. So you ask, if you ask, you get an answer in my world. Yeah, Rich says, I love winter trees too. Yeah, they are one, and the discoveries aren't ending. It's just not tiresome. Same thing with the rocks, with the river rocks, and well, also, well, I guess those are my favorite two things. So I was thinking also, it's a different kind of neutral. I love studying the sand where we have beachy areas, but we don't have that here. I have to go down to the coast, which is, several hours drive to find the sand on the beach. But the sand on the beach is not yellow ochre. A lot of people just pull out yellow ochre and that's the sand on the beach. No, it's not. You can see that too, especially when the water comes up and then it goes out. You can, and also different times of days, you can see that change from cool to warm. Various areas of sand as the light shines. So that's a wonderful thing to study. But you asked for my favorite, and my favorite is it's hands down the gray trees in the wintertime. Okay, let's see. Cheryl says, thank you, Roger. Great one for study. It is. Look up this Pissarro. Go to, did you find it on WikiArt? Or do you know?
No, I forget where I found it, but I did find that worldhistory.org.
Huh?
Worldhistory.org.
Worldhistory.org. Uh-huh.
It's, they say that this was selected by the artist for display in the first Impressionist exhibition in Paris.
Boom.
In 1874.
1874, yeah.
It was painted in 1873.
Uh-huh.
But 1874.
When they did that first Impressionist exhibition.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. I thought, yeah. Well, y'all go to worldhistory.org.
Yeah.
And do they have the ability there for you to get closer up, or do they have one of those zooms on there where you can get closer up and see it a little closer? If not, and y'all can see if you have that little ability. Some of the gallery websites and the museum websites now have that ability for you to zoom in so that you can actually see as if you were up close to the painting itself, and that, I just have so much fun with that. Yeah.
I can zoom the picture on my phone.
Oh, you can do it on your phone. Well, yes, that's right. You can do it on your phone. Also, Wiki. Let me give y'all another little hint here about how to find paintings of other artists, and especially our master artists, and then see exactly what they're doing. And on wikiart.org, wikiart.org, you can search by painting, by artists, by schools, a number of ways. But you can, if you click on the icon or click on the little thumbnail, and then it'll bring up kind of a smallish but larger picture, and with the information, the artist information and whatever. But if you click on that, it will take you to the ability to it'll bring a full picture up and takes you, and on the side you have a little gizmo that you can raise up and down to get closer in and see, really get a close-up, or the nearest thing that you can get to a close-up without being there, see the real painting itself. And you can also take your when it's at these certain magnifications, it takes just a section out. Then you can also take your mouse and cursor up and down on the screen itself, and it will allow you to travel around the painting, and you can see different parts of it. That's what I was using in the Sargent, the one of Mrs. Not Mrs. It was Mrs. Agnew. I'm forgetting. I forgot Mrs. Brown, Mrs. One of those Mrs. The one that has the dress that fascinates everybody about Sargent's color work. That's how I got that. I just went straight to the website, and I got my screencaster on into the website itself, and then I started just pulling that up because I wanted to get the purest possible reading of that color. Oh my goodness, we're getting very, very close to closing out time. Okay, again, this gives me a great appreciation of what an artist has done to produce a painting. Yes, indeed. And here's the thing about it, and this is something I would advise all of you for. How can I say this and not be nasty? There are too many rules in the teaching of painting. I'm going to make it very very general. Yeah, there are too many rules in the teaching of painting. The thing is, a lot of those rules that you hear from here and there, I'll say, are myths. They're myths. And one of those, I'm just thinking specifically right now of the post I did in your last. Oh, that was yesterday's post, where I was talking, I'm talking about the 8 mysteries of color, or of painting, 8 mysteries of painting. 8 are the mysteries of painting, or something like that, each week now until the end of the year. And this one is about movement, about how we create movement, visual movement. Anyway, I got an email from one of the viewers that was saying, so what I was saying there is that the movement does not have to come from the bottom of the painting and take you from the bottom of the painting into the emphasis point, or what they call that, point. It's the. Oh, I can't even think of the label now because I never use it. Anyway, no. You don't have to create your composition so that the eye comes in from the bottom. The eye's not going to come in from the bottom. The eye's going to go where it's attracted to. Now, you can go to any of the master artists and see this proven out. Go, the David I showed right there. Did I show it? Yeah, when I was talking about, when I said, forget about the rules and find out for yourself. See it for yourself. See how it works for yourself. That David painting I showed you, the Death of Socrates, it doesn't bring you in from the bottom, but you'll go straight to Socrates. Your eyes go straight to Socrates, and then your eye begins to explore. And if you look at the Monet painting there, the haystacks painting, your eyes don't come in from the bottom. So that is a myth. The master artists are going to be, I'm going to put this another way. If you will look at how anytime anybody tells you this has to be there. Focal point's what I was trying to say. Who had a little bit of a brain, there. Anyway, focal point. Look at what the master artists are doing. Look at what Sargent did. Look at how he does. Anytime anybody tells you that something has to happen, it must be there. You must have a focal point. You must do this. You must do that. Okay, if you must have a focal point, how did Sargent's cashmere become so great? So the master artist, look at anytime anybody tries to push something down your throat and tell you it's a must, go to the master artist and just look through and see if they're doing that. Are they doing that in all their paintings? And you will find out, no, that the whole business of composing paintings is an open thing, that what we do is we try to keep the eye within the painting. That just makes sense, just like a musical piece you need to have a beginning, a feeling of beginning and a feeling of ending. In painting, we keep the eye within the picture frame, and we have many ways we can do that. And we can just observe what causes things to happen, and it's just like science. It's cause and effect. Everything we do in painting is cause and effect. There are no principles to memorize. There are principles that people have stated as principles throughout the centuries, but if you try to just memorize those and make your painting fit into it, it would just tire you out and you won't love painting anymore. Painting is about discovering cause and effect, keeping the eye within there. All right, so I can go on, and I have a tendency, when I start talking about this stuff, I've always been a rebel, and I have a tendency to get going, and I can't stop myself. So Cheryl says, again, this gives me a great appreciation of what an artist has done. Oh, I read that, didn't I? I don't know. Anyway, hey folks, we got to bring this thing to a close. We're about 2 minutes over. So unless there's somebody have a last minute question, and maybe YouTube won't kick us off before we answer it. All right. Thank you so much, all of you. Thank you so much for joining us for this one. And do go to the DianneMizeAcademy.com and just check out what we have there. Especially check out our courses that we offer at 50% off every month. We have every new course. Every time we put up a new course, we put it up for 50% off during that month that we have introduced the course. And so check that out. Also, if you think you might be interested in the workshop we're doing Wednesday on how you can create rhythm with color, as I said before, last time I checked, we still had a couple of spaces left there. So the fastest way to get there, you may have an email to come in. Those of you on the mailing list, you may have the email to come in. They'll give you an opportunity to do that. But you can always go to DianneMizeAcademy.com and click on Diane's Workshops in the menu and find that. All right, that's it. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, all of you, for joining us. And we will hope to see you again next month. Are we doing next month? December?
Yeah.
Oh, we're doing December. Okay. We'll have our Christmas edition. We'll see what we can do with that. Okay. That's it for now. Bye-bye, everybody. And thanks again for joining us.